directly with nonprofit organizations, and that's what we do at Dunleavy. We're a professional advisory firm. We work exclusively with nonprofits on a range of areas: development and fundraising, communications, strategic planning, events. We do a lot of events, and I love what I do. I have been in advertising. I've been in the nonprofit world. I spent 10 years running the corporate underwriting department at WHYY. And at Dunleavy, I get to work directly with so many different agencies and smaller nonprofit organizations, larger ones, and really help our clients build relationships with funders and individuals. And we work as a team. So what we do is we go into an organization and we assess the needs of the nonprofit, put together a plan, but we don't just end there. For lack of a better term, we parachute in as a team, and we work side by side with the organization. So it's a great model, and it's been a lot of fun. So what I would like to speak with you about is how to build that fundraising letter, that annual appeal. And Tim has really provided an excellent segue for doing so, which is really great. Everybody loves a story, and it's just a matter of finding the right story. And that story will define who you are, define your mission. And the mission is really important here, because you all have a very succinct mission for your organization. And it's one thing to have numbers and outcomes that talk about what your mission has accomplished. But what a story does is it personifies, it adds a face to your mission. So you can have the numbers and the outcomes, but it's just getting that right story that is going to resonate with the people who read your letter, and it's going to make them answer the question, why should I care? So what? And that is really, really critical. So what we do at Dunleavy is we work with our clients, and we try to help them identify just the right story to showcase. It's going to really answer those questions. That's going to be emotional. It's going to really hit the reader. To move the reader to learn more about your agency and to motivate him or her to give. And finding that right story is not as daunting as you would think. And what we encourage our clients to do is not wait until the end of the year or the fall to find a story. Find stories all year round. If you have a weekly meeting or a monthly meeting with your team, put it on the agenda. Say, okay, stories, and have everybody come, and it doesn't have to be every week or month, it can be different people, come and develop an arsenal of stories. Have people share something great that has happened with a client, a success story, something about a student or a mom that has been life-changing. And that way you will have a folder of stories, and then the happy problem will be deciding what story to use at the end of the year. So you can have a physical folder of stories, or you can put it on the server for everybody to share. But that way you won't feel that, oh gee, I have to come up with something, and it'll be part of you. And from that story can also come a theme that you could use throughout the year. Let's say somebody built a new life as a result of your agency. You might want to use building new lives as your theme. And yes, you'll incorporate it within your story, within your appeal, but you could use that theme for your annual report. You could use it for communications. You could use it for a lot of different aspects. So just knowing that you don't have to wait until a certain time of year to think about a story will just relax you and make you, just think about things differently, and then you'll have a choice. You'll really have a choice of what to do. So anyway, we have a lot of different stories that we can be sharing in our work. child who had no opportunities and was given an opportunity to attend a certain school and has made, the school has really launched him or her in a trajectory for success. You can do that. You can even, if you have an event, and let's say you have a speaker, an honoree at the event, and that honoree will tell a story, you can ask him or her if you have permission to use some of his words and as part of your story. That's another way to do it. We all have some really great ones to share. Some are more moving than others, and you can build upon them, but really the happy problem will be to select just the right story. So anyway, I think that it might be, at this point, the time to answer some questions before we go on to some of the best practices. Okay, yes?
Sorry, how long would you say a strong letter? Our organization goes back and forth between, should we talk a little bit more about ourselves, go on to the second page, or should we try to keep it the same, keep it to one page, but then you're not able to share as much?
Yes, you know, it's really interesting. In fact, that's one of the questions I was going to answer. Believe it or not, research shows that a two-pager draws more than a one-pager. But it really is up to you as an agency. If you feel that you were able to get everything in a really succinct way, and there's not too much more you want to say, it's hard to do. That is really hard to do. But you also want to make sure to space it, and we'll talk about some of those best practices. So it may go to a page and a half. But it really depends on how well you tell the story. But don't be afraid to make it long. Yes.
You said that people should gather their stories. And one of the things I think a lot of people can smell through, I don't know, is if you're faking it. Like, you know, like why gather some kids to put them into a photograph if they're not the children that you're working with? To me, that just seems very disingenuous way to go about that. So how would you, if you're launching a new initiative, isn't it just best just to use the people that are launching it rather than go find some kids and have them stand
Like
there?
a stock photo? Yes. Yes. No, I would.
Authenticity is, I guess, the question.
Absolutely, and I would wholeheartedly agree. You're going to have to go through some permissions, and you'll see one of the sample appeal letters that I'm going to show is of a young man, 14 years old, along with a teacher at the school, and we did get permission from his family and as well as him to be featured at his picture because we wanted it to be messier, the young man. So I totally agree.
Deb, can I just say something? Sure. Okay. I know when we launched the foundation, last year was the first year that we ever did a community report. And the title of the cover was Driving Change Through Collaboration. And I know we went back and forth with our design people because they wanted to use stock photos and we wanted to use real people. But no, and as a matter of fact, while you're not going upstairs to pick up one, but we ended up pulling the woman who worked with from the Asian community. We had Phil Abundance on the cover. We had young people on the cover. We had our nursing students on the cover. And it almost was a fluke because we cut it down the middle, taped it together, and said, this is what it's going to look like. And it had such an impact because we could, and the picture told the story. So so it does make a difference. And we had all those sign-offs, but it made all the difference in the work. So whenever I'm telling the story, I said, these are the folks that we work with. So I agree.
Yeah, yeah. And authenticity is absolutely. Okay, any other questions for now? And please do jump in as we go through the best practices. All right, so these are some tactics that we used at Dunleavy Associates. And I've written quite a few appeal letters, and I'm always adding and amending to it. So it's a live document, absolutely. Okay, so we'll start. And the first one is set the stage for your story. And that is really critical because you want to make sure that you have your theme in mind, and if you start out by thinking about the theme throughout. So you want to have a strong opening sentence or a very impactful quote, a grabber, we sometimes call it, and I'll show you some examples. You want to always be setting yourself apart. Because let's face it, at the end of the year, starting in November, you're going to be seeing a lot of letters in the mail. I'm sure you're deluged with them. So what is going to make your letter a little different? We'll talk about some more tactics for that. But if you open up with a question or a quote from one of your clients, something that is going to make the reader want to continue is really, really key. Okay, make your letter personal. This is really important. When you're writing a letter, I am sure that you've all written business documents and professional emails. Put all that aside. Write a letter to a friend. Speak to your donor or your prospect like he or she is sitting right with you, and you use your own language. That is really, really important because that is going to set you apart too. That connection is critical. It's not just the emotion, but it is the connection. So I would say that that is extremely important. Include the mission and the accomplishments. You definitely want to be able to do that, and we'll talk about tactics for doing that. But remind the donor who has received your letters for years what your mission is, because that is critical. And it's also going to set the stage for the story that you're going to share. And your accomplishments too, what you've done in the past year, because that will show the donor that because of his or her commitment to your agency, this is what you've been able to accomplish. Okay, then at this point, of course, connect the reader emotionally and include 3 very clear asks throughout the letter. Don't wait till the end. Don't do it at the very beginning, but make sure you include the ask. How many times do I hear, "You're afraid to ask"? Well, it's your job to ask. And if you set up the stage for a compelling story, a compelling mission, by making 3 different asks through the letter, you have no problem in doing so. All right? Make it easy to give, and that is really important too. Whether you use a remittance envelope or a tear-off at the end of your letter, you'll also have to include your website for online giving and give various options. It could be a check, it could be a credit card. Make sure to have credit card information and arrange to have that written in. Make it easy. When someone is compelled to give, it should be there, right? And then make the donor the hero. Because of you, we've been able to accomplish this. I come from public broadcasting, and all of you must have heard, members like you, viewers like you, they do it for a reason. They want you to feel, hey, this great Downton Abbey, this came through because I gave my $50. Yeah, and it is true. In fact, I'll give a WH1 Lifeline. It is really true that 50% of all their revenue comes from viewers like you. So it reminds the donor that he or she is a hero, and you have to be genuinely appreciative of those who have given or those who are about to give. So that is really important. Okay, so let's talk about the specific tactics, and here we get to the first page of the letter or 2 pages of the letter. Okay, there's something called variable data in direct mail, and that means including Dear John when you open up a letter versus Dear Friend. If your budget allows, it's great to do it, but it's not essential. You can have, when people personalize letters, and we'll talk about that later, you could cross cross out dear friend and write John. But it's an option that is helpful. A lot of people do like it because it does personalize more. Include photos or images wherever you can. Having that authentic face is really important. Space your letters so that you can indent paragraphs, and don't be afraid to use bolded lines, italics, and underline for emphasis. Be enthusiastic when you're writing your personal letter to your donor or prospect. Okay, this is something I really love to do. Read the letter out loud. If you've created a draft, just read it out loud, first to yourself, and then have a colleague listen to it. Because it should sound like you, or it should sound like, if you're not the executive director, make sure it sounds like the executive director. And have the executive director read it and say, I don't say, I don't say that, I don't use that word. Well, then change the word, because it's her letter. So you want to absolutely make sure. This is something that really sets you apart. Using the outer envelope. Using the outer envelope to create a sense of urgency in an annual appeal when you're getting 100,000 of these letters is really helpful. Help us continue our important work. Please give by December 31st, 2013. Well, right away, it signals a sense of urgency. It stands out among the other letters. And it's a really great tactic to use. And let me also point out, before you see the sample letters, which are, professionally produced, if you're a small agency, you don't have to have a printed envelope with a standout that will be printed on there. You could create stickers with your return address, and then with a bold, help us continue our important work. That will work too, and it's very, very cost effective. But using that outer envelope to your advantage is a really great way to go. Okay, personalize as much as possible, and this is where your board comes in. You really need to rally your board to help you when it comes to personalizing appeals. Hopefully your board members will have provided names of at least 10 personal connections. If you can give your board members a stack of appeal letters and have the board members personalize a note either on a sticky and put it on or handwritten, include his or her name on the return address, and have the board members say, I'm a member of this wonderful organization, please support it this year. And that's really important. That's a standout also. Now, I should also mention that some organizations have more than one appeal letter a year. I'm working with a few that are doing end of fiscal year appeals. So that is also an interesting concept because there are different times of the year. Not everyone does an end of fiscal year appeal. It's an extra push. It comes at the end of May, or it comes, at the end of April or beginning of May, and that's another way for you to stand out, and an extra push. And a lot of clients have never done that before, and it's really helpful. I should add just a few more ideas too. A call out is important. If you can repeat a phrase, like help us continue our important work, as like a starburst, maybe in your appeal letter, to re-emphasize something that's important. And we'll see some examples. That's another way to go. So, any questions on the tactics and best practices?
So a quick question. As far as the board members personalizing letters, do you have an opinion whether it's better to personalize the letter itself or the envelope?
Well, you're going to want to have the board member write his name on the return address.
But you wouldn't write an actual, hi Mike, hope you can support us on this.
No, I
you would
think
put that in the letter, not in the envelope.
It's preferable to do it on a letter or on a sticky note or on a note card. Yes. So, someone asked a question about the board of directors or board of trustees list on your stationery. Absolutely. one-pager versus a two-pager. What are good tips for making it concise? And you can use bullets to get your story across, and we'll see that in some examples. And what are people really interested in hearing? They're interested in knowing the impact your agency has. Not just in numbers, but your story will prove that impact. Any other questions before we go on? Okay, so here is one example. This is a client of ours, Community Partnership School, and it's a school, I don't know if any of you are familiar with it. On Judson Street, right. It's a North Central Philadelphia school that's been, it's in its 8th year right now, and we love this school. It first started, when it first started, the teachers had literally knocked on doors to get families to bring their children to the school. Only 5% of the entire budget is tuition. 95% comes from individual donors and foundations. Some parents pay, it's $10 a month to send their children. So donations are really important here. So we really need to tell a story, a success story, and this is one that we're particularly proud of. And this is the young man, Nasir, who I referred to before. He tells the story of a challenging background, but his parents and Nasir were very, very comfortable in sharing the story because they knew that it would really drive people to connect with Community Partnership School. So we started out with a quote from Nasir, and I love this. Without Community Partnership School, I wouldn't have learned half of the things that I know. I wouldn't be in the school I'm in, and I wouldn't be the person that I am today. I am thankful for Community Partnership School for helping me become who I am. And who doesn't have chills from this? Now, Nasir was among the first graduates of Community Partnership School in 5th grade, and he is now finishing up 8th grade at William Penn Charter School. And this is all because of Community Partnership School. So here, that was the grabber. We used Nasir's quote as the opening. And this picture of Nasir with Lynn Waters, the director of enrollment, says it all. I mean, the beaming story within that picture. So here we did use Dear Friend, and we talked about Nasir and his story, and the challenges he faced, and what a success he has, and the opportunities he has because of the education and Community Partnership School, the 12 students per class, it's really extraordinary. So this is a 2-pager. We chose to use a cutoff remittance, which works really well there. And this is the second page. You'll see the Board of Trustees list is here. It's signed here by the head of school and the board chair. Generally, these letters are signed by the head of school or the executive director, but this has worked for them very well. Again, you'll see that there are bolded lines, and we want to make sure that these are emphasized. Our key to success lies in our name. We ask you now to invest in the future of our students. The donor is the hero. Your donation is essential to our work. So these cover a lot of the elements. We have graphics, we have beautiful photos that are authentic, and we make it easy for individuals to do. Yes.
So let's take a quick look. Like, if we were to, you professionally prepared this for someone, and I understand the value of $100. If it's free, then, So what kind of arrangements would be made or could be made with your organization to help launch a new initiative?
Okay, well, we can certainly talk about that. We do have fees at Dunleavy where we work with nonprofit organizations. putting something like this together, not as professionally produced, there are a lot of ways you can go about doing that. By using your own stationery, by writing a compelling letter, by making copies of photos and making sure they're embedded. I mean, it can really be done in a very cost-effective way. Yeah,
Can I
but we
just
can
add on to that a little bit, because I think it ties something that both Tim, Lorina, and you said, is that you want to connect to people that you know. And so even a handwritten letter, like just like a little handwritten note on top of your organizational thing, look, I'm really counting on you. Look at this is our impact statement, take a look at it, please think about it, about contribution today. 3 lines can be really moving to somebody if they know you and they know how like your heart's in the work and you're doing this every day. It's a very different, there's all different ways you can cut that cloth. But I mean, I think, you know, they do a really nice professional job and you're right to cut that out. That full glossy is expensive and a small nonprofit may not be able to afford that. But everybody can afford maybe some nice letterhead from maybe Staples and just, you know.
Absolutely.
I completely agree, but I'm gonna tell you something, whether or not this was professionally done or not, I'm the kind of person where, like you look to see who invited you, who sent me this letter. And I mean, I look just at the advisory committee alone would make me take a second look at it. Okay?
Absolutely.
And so the key also, when you're writing these little letters, I don't care if you have your dog stamped with those paws all over it. I mean, if you look, oh, come on, Marcy, man. I mean, I'm going to give it special attention if I'm in that arena.
I have 2 things.
Sure.
One, as a former member of the Young Friends Committee of Community Partnership School, these are awesome. I get them often in the mail, and it's something that I try to open them right away, because I always want to hear how the kids are doing. And the appeal letters are actually at my organization where I work now as examples of what we should be doing. But also sort of a peer-to-peer suggestion is perhaps look to local schools or universities for unpaid interns who are savvy with technology, whether it's PowerPoint, Publisher, things of that nature, to help you build, if you want to sort of look and feel of something like what Community Partnership School does. I worked for another nonprofit in the past, and we kind of, not launched, but tried to reinvigorate an individual campaign, and we had an intern helping us with sort of the look and feel production part of it.
That's wonderful. And then you could use your regular stationery and
Right.
and have that done. Absolutely. Yes.
Yes, and I wanted to reiterate, young lady said over here, but Drexel University students are designing our website for 2004.
I'm looking for something.
The arts, I'm thinking of Academy of Fine Arts, all those can do all these things that we talk about, to collaborate, to partnership. They're teaching them, they're working with them.
You know, I've sent those letters out. I've been in conversation. I was just asking, you know, like, because I'm a little tired right now. You know, I have retired, and I'm being drawn. So I'm just trying to figure out a way to,
That's it, the road.
no, dovetail.
But that's a great suggestion. It's really
Thank you.
good.
That Drexel program is good. I don't know if it's the freshman student class they work with. There has to be some sort of community bend to the learning they do at the School of Business, and that is one of the things they do. Produce all brochures, press kits, websites. I can't remember.
You can just go online. I think it's normally the community partnership offices, because I've been in contact with Rutgers, Widener, and,
Yeah, but this is at the School of Business, first year students, whatever language you want to search around.
so it's not that
No, it's a business school.
Yes.
So last year when we did our annual appeal, I had a lot of trouble with the tension of like, make it personal, make it sound like you, and then all of the things that you're supposed to do in it are things that I would never ever use in a letter. You know, I don't underline things, I don't also then like to make it have pictures or make it look designed that like when I open it, like clearly this is not just going to me. Like the sort of professional look of it makes it feel less personal to me, and the way that appeal letters kind of are, some of the tactics feel like not my voice or tone, and that has been a little bit difficult for me.
Well, it has to be comfortable for you, but at the same time, you need to ask. So you're an executive director?
No, I'm working development.
Yeah, you're in development, okay. I'd say that you want to work hand in hand with your team and see if you can come to a comfortable ground. Because yes, you do want to make it personal. At the same time, the person who's going to read that is going to want to know what you've accomplished over the year and the story. I think it's a process. Writing an annual appeal letter takes time, and it has a lot of people involved. And when I write an annual appeal letter for an executive director, that person has to run through it and read it himself, and then have others read it too. And I think you do need to literally push the envelope sometimes to put the facts in and convey the story in a strong way to get the results. I don't know if I'm answering your question. It's basically, I think you need to push a little bit, but all within a place that's comfortable for the executive director to be involved. So it takes time. Any other questions? We can move on to the next one. And I honestly have to tell you that I didn't realize what I was doing on Fred's footsteps until I walked into the G. Fred DeBona building today in the ring. I honestly didn't realize, but the reason why we picked this letter is because we love this letter so much. And this letter was signed by Christine DeBona, Fred's daughter, who with Fred's widow created Fred's Footsteps, which is an incredible organization that supports families whose children are in because of health issues. And really extraordinary organization, and we support them with their annual fundraising event, which is really exciting. And so this letter was written, there are several stories within here. First of all, and we did another dear friend, there is the story of a child, a family who is benefited by Fred's Footsteps, but really foremost and forward is the story of Fred. And Christine started the letter by saying, who was Fred? And answering the question who her father was. And for any of you who have known about Fred DeBona and the type of person he was someone who was very one-on-one. At the same time, he was great in a crowd. And he's known to have run up and down in the elevator, and he used to sit in someone's cubicle and say, how are you doing, how's your family? So he was that type of person. And this letter really communicated who Fred was. So again, there are photos, there's a call out with a story about an individual. There are a lot of bold elements here and spaces, accomplishments, and it's a two-pager. So there's the board of directors listed and the advisory. Yes. And calls to action with several asks here, so that the person reading this will be compelled to give. Yes.
I'm not sure if this is done for space or not, but do you suggest a double-sided one-page or two-page or?
Oh, it's always double-sided. It's always double-sided. I should point that out. So a two-page letter is double-sided. Yes. again, making it easy for the donor to give, and also making the donor the hero. So we have here stored the numbers, and the numbers are connected with the story. Okay. Any questions? So again, with a great story and a great theme, that can be all year round. You can use it in your communications, annual report, and throughout the year. And just keep on collecting those stories and find one that really works for you. Okay? Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Okay, great. Now, you didn't think you just sat here and just listened all this time. We're going to put you to work, okay? It's an opportunity to work on your messaging, and there were some folks, there was a survey that went out to some folks, to all of you actually, and there were some people that responded that said that they wanted help with their messaging. And so, Alicia Gonzalez, good, okay, why is she picking on me? Greater days ahead. Kathleen Lee, I know Kath, okay, and Beth Van Horn. And what we're gonna do, they're almost gonna be like your consulting team, is that the way it's gonna work?
Yeah, so they're
Okay.
gonna be, 3 groups of 5.
Okay.
So the groups are gonna help those 3 make their message.
Okay, great. All right, so we have Alicia. Did I say that right, Alicia? Okay, so Alicia's here. So, what? They'll just put it the way they want to, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How you doing this? I don't want to get in trouble, okay?
You guys can kind of stand up, so I guess 1 group over here, 1 group back here, and 1 over here.
Okay, but it should be evenly distributed.
Yeah, I counted 15 people, so it's 15 participants, so 5 people per group.
Alicia, your organization is called GAID?
Delay.
Delay, okay. And I'm sure that's an acronym.
It was an acronym, but we just dropped it.
Oh, okay, good, okay, all right. All right, and then we have Kathleen Lee, who's the Trudy Haynes Foundation. Kathy's right there, wave your hand, Kathy. All right.
There's
Okay.
Bridge, Broadcasting Health Issues and Diversity Guided Education.
Thank you, Kathy.
Not a problem.
Oh, right, okay, and then Beth Van Horn. Okay, Beth, okay.
So Beth, you could, I guess, be on this side.
Not that we're making you get up, but we are. Okay. So that you'll have your consulting team over here. There'll be a team here, and there'll be a team here.
And our presenters today, after you're done, you're going to share your work product, and our presenters today are going to be like American Idol style. So they're going to, they're not going to judge you, they're just going to give you feedback.
I'm glad I'm not doing that, okay?
They're going to give you feedback. So we have 1, 2, but we can have 2 more people in this group. 2 more people in this group. We need 4 more people over here.
I have a question. You said 5 per group, is that inclusive of the person that?
That includes the person that volunteered. So she's a volunteer, so she needs 4. So she needs 4.
I think I'm a volunteer.
That's the high
Yeah,
But I'm all alone.
but it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people here. So 1 person over here. I've been recently involved.
I thought it was
One volunteer too. So the guidelines are on the projector. So you're gonna come up with a mini blurb of the stories for your organization. Yeah, please, that would help you. Well, you can explain it to them. Yes, you can explain it to them.
It's great.
our credit card store.
Violence erupts in South Philadelphia High School. You have going back and forth. Brainstorm, an idea hit me. I said, what is going on? I wasn't here for this over years, and I was approached by a director. Probably service work. And I said, I work They are very
Let them in charge. I'll be right back.
Okay.
What kind of project can I design that will be engaging, allow voice and empowerment, and not utilize the community to make it ascend to the next level. So I came up with broadcasting and actually my mission there is to prepare our children through broadcasting and I've already secured through Tierney, and it's not like legacy also, but it's also established, as the first black woman broadcaster in research. So, these students from Camden, Philly, Chester, working on the following year, gradually on Trenton, they have to actually produce television. They're going to be on Channel 7.